Hello everyone, this is Ariaki, and welcome to the Essential Guide for Realm of the Mad God. Today we're going to be going over a few important things that you need to know in order to become a better player. Now, I don't necessarily view myself as the best player, not by any means actually, but I've definitely learned the ins and outs of this game since coming back as a light blue star actually in April of this year. And no, I'm not joking. Take a look at my realm. Take a look at my realm eye and my rank history. At the point of coming back to this game, I had 12 stars, never maxed character 1-8, and never even gotten a single white bag, and was still fearful of the Godlands. Highest tier dungeons I did were Orc's Castle and Snake Pits. Like, UDLs, Abysses, and even Sprite Worlds were beyond my scope, because I was just too afraid of the unknown. And that right there is one of the most important things you must master in order to become a better player. It's also at the top of our list of the essentials to RotMG. Fear. Now, fear is a fickle concept. Fear is defined by dictionary.com as a distressing emotion aroused by impending danger, evil, pain, etc., whether the threat is real or imagined. The feeling or condition of being afraid. Now, the key words here are danger and imagined. Obviously, you can't be afraid of everything. That's just gonna prevent you from progressing further. But, on the flip side, you also can't be unafraid of everything, because you'll just get yourself into situations that can only end in certain death. What you need to do is find the balance between the two. Having a sense of fear, of risk, but also being brave enough to attempt the dungeon or boss in the first place. Once you've mustered up enough courage to enter the dungeon, whether it be an abyss, tomb, shatters, and for the more experienced of us, the nests and lost halls, stay with the group. I cannot stress this enough. The group is what buffs you, what heals you, and what distracts enemies to targeting someone else with a better gear, stats, or pet. If you're not entirely sure what to do in a certain situation, it's better to just do nothing at all. Let's take a shatters for instance. The first tip people will give you when entering your first few shatters is to hug the wall like your life depends on it, because it does. If one person goes astray at kill top or third switch, let them do it. Don't follow them and screw it up for people. The moment you panic and get too close to other enemies, they activate, putting you and other players at risk. Oh, and another Shats tip, if they start lava walking, you'll know when they see it. Just Nexus. If you get hit by a few shots and aren't feeling it, just Nexus. If you get left behind and aren't confident in your dodging skills, please, just Nexus. There has never been, and never will be, something wrong with Nexusing. It doesn't make you a pussy or a bitch, it makes you careful. If there's anything that you take from this guide, it's to remember that your character will always be more valuable. If someone drags enemies on your white bag and you can't get it without dying, either Nexus or to watch that fucking bag disappear. If you think you're good enough to sneak between each enemy, double-click a Nexus, go right ahead. If you get the item, then great. If you don't, and instead die, well, was the white you didn't pick up even good, like worth dying for? The answer is no, by the way, if you couldn't figure that out. My character will always trump loot on my priority list. And if you can't say that with confidence, you're probably used to dying a lot. Which, coincidentally, is the next topic on our menu. Death. Dealing with death, learning how to avoid death, how to rebuild after dying. And the first tip I can give to you is find a guild. When you're in a guild, you'll most often than not be the best person in that guild. Someone will be better than you. Someone will have more vault chests, more character slots, more maxed characters than you. And there's going to be pots they don't need. And they'll be glad to give them to you. I know, look, if, you know that guy who just died, Immortal, right? I've probably given him at least like 36 life worth of pots because he dies so fucking much, and I'm always there just to help him out, you know what I'm saying? Just seriously, just find a guild, right, with a few really good people and you'll be fine. They'll take care of you. But if you can't, here's a few things that you might want to do. If you kind of hate the game now, after you die, you don't have any characters or anything, try PPE. They're really fun, they're really easy, and they can sometimes get you really good loot. And if you're good enough to get your PPE maxed, you can use that character to rebuild your other ones. And if that's not, you know, an option, however, basically you have to start from scratch. And I know how bad that sounds, but it's actually not as shitty as it sounds. Because here's the thing. Before I ever had a maxed character, I had no guild whatsoever, right? I made a necromancer. and I just did just a bunch of fucking snake bits. That's all I did, right? And that's how I got my first white bag, a bulwark, right? So basically what happened after that was that I kept doing these snake bits because I wanted another bulwark. I was like, oh my god, a white bag. So I kept going, kept doing snake bits. And then I maxed speed. My first max stat ever. It was great. I was like, whoa, it's fucking sick. So basically, moral of the story here is grind. RotMG is a game for grinding. It is grinding for the sake of grinding. Because what you do, you grind, max a character. You use that character to grind for harder pots to max that character's life and mana. You use that 8/8 character to grind for harder pots, harder loot, and that sort of things to put on other characters, to put on that character. And then you use that character to keep grinding, to keep getting more loot, keep getting more pots. That's basically the cycle of RotMG. You grind for the sake of grinding. And for all of you, like me, with 5 8/8s and just a bunch of max characters you don't know what to do, try this. If you have a free character slot, this is how I maxed all my characters now. You take a level 1 character, you drink all of your pots, all your rainbows at least. You don't have to do life and mana. Just keep doing that, just keep doing it until you're like, I think I've done this enough. Just do it for like about 3 to 4 days. Then you level up that character. More often than not, you'll probably roll a few max stats. I once rolled like max 5/8. That was probably the best thing I rolled after doing that. That's how I maxed my wizard. That's how I maxed this 8/8 trickster that you see me play on right now. That's how I maxed, actually, I think 2 wizards. Yeah. And that's how I maxed my sorcerer. It's just easy for someone who can farm a bunch of pots. But once again, if you can't do that, just farm normally, drink the pots and that sort of thing, and you'll be fine. The dungeons aren't that hard if you stay with the group, and seriously, maxing a character is easy peasy, even with like a shit pet. Cause, okay, here's the story. That first 6/8 Necro I ever had, right? Yeah. I only had a magic heal pet when that happened. I didn't even have a heal pet. It just healed my magic by like 6. That's all I had at the time. And I kept that 6/8 Necro alive for a while, up to about like 1300 base fame, I'm pretty sure. So, yeah, it's not that hard. I mean, it obviously seems really hard because you can't do it. You keep dying, that sort of thing. But if you keep dying, then just try some of the things I'm about to tell you right now. Take less risks, right? Risk is the #1 like greatest thing that you need to master. I've already said this, right? It's fear, risk. If you stop taking risks, then you'll stop dying. Obviously you'll get less loot and that sort of thing, but once again, your character's more important. So just keep that in mind. Now, the next thing we're going to be talking about is how to actually play the game. I know that sounds weird, but it's the technical skills, right? Now, before I had my first 6/8 ever, right? I played centered, no rotation, at 45 degrees. And I honestly liked it. It was great. There's nothing wrong with it. I could dodge easily and all that stuff. But after I saw one of Talar's vids, he said that you should start screen rotating, that you should off-center your character and that sort of thing. So I tried it. I hated it for about 2 weeks. I think I died like twice because of it. But yeah, you should really try that. Please do. You will start being able to move in ways you've never even imagined, right? Being able to dodge shots that you really didn't think you could. Because, okay, here's the thing. Doing the LODs on a melee is pretty much next to impossible if you don't use cam rotation. Because this is the way I do it. If I'm on a melee, like even with just an acclaim, what I do is I walk up to the dragon and I start dragging it backwards while rotating my screen to the right by pressing Q over and over again. And what that does is it puts me to the right of like the dragon so that I dodge his initial shotgun and I can still keep doing damage. And then once he gets to the center or something, I just back up and let everyone else do damage. And that's just kind of how I do it. So it's pretty easy, right? Those are just the technical skills that you have to learn to become a better player. Now, if you're new and you don't want to die into precious characters, once again, you don't have to, right? You don't have to do everything that I say, but these are just things that you need to to keep in mind, to maybe at least try, you know what I'm saying, so that maybe you can become a better player. So this part of the guide may sound kind of stupid, like I'm calling you stupid, but I'm seriously not. It's dodging and aiming, two very important things, because you need to dodge to stay alive, and you need to aim to get loot, to hit that soulbound, because that's what you're really after, is that sick loot, my guy. But what you really need to do for dodging is look around your character, not directly at it, because once you do that, you'll miss shots. You'll not be able to correctly predict shots, because half of dodging, sure, half of it is probably, you know, seeing the shot and then moving away, but another part of it is putting yourself in a position where you'll never get hit in the first place, because RotMG is less about dodging every shot and more about tanking the shots that you should take and avoiding the ones that you shouldn't. For instance, like, you should be tanking the shots that do more damage than the ones that confuse, because the confused shots can mess you up and in turn make you take even more damage. So that's probably the most important thing you need to learn, is to learn which shots to take, to read up on RotMG on certain boss enemies to figure out their shot types and those sort of things. Doing so will only help your knowledge grow of this game, and that's like number 5 on the list of the most important things in this game, behind, you know, remembering to Nexus and being careful, and remembering to Nexus and being careful. Yeah, those 4 things, and then what comes after that is your knowledge of the game. Learning how each enemy works, their shot patterns, the way they behave, the way they move, how sometimes they rush straight at you, sometimes they run to the side, sometimes they run into the middle of the group and then just shotgun everyone in the Lost Halls. Sometimes how things like to explode after, you know, rushing at you, like an ice sphere, as we just saw. Learning all of those things, learning how these things happen, how they work, is seriously one of the greatest tools that you can have. I've actually spent hours of my time just sitting there browsing RotMG, looking at shot patterns, looking at weapons to use, playing with Perfifle. I'll link Perfifle or Perfifle, whatever the fuck you said. I'll link Perfifle in the description. It is seriously probably the greatest tool I've ever found in my life. It's so much fun just to mess around with. You can create your own weapons and shot patterns and that sort of thing. You can mimic the shot patterns of other enemies. It's actually just really awesome. Yeah, so look out for that in the description, but I just have to interject right now. This clip that you're seeing is a clip of Grant trying to lava walk by himself, forgetting to heal, and then losing a Piri. Yeah, that's what not to do, kids. So, don't be an idiot. Yeah, the hashtag exposed, get beaned, kid. So, back to what I was talking about. Knowledge, intelligence, those sort of things are your greatest ally. That and your Nexus key. So just keep that in mind, please. Please, Nexus, please. Please, Nexus. So, I hope you've had fun so far with the guide, because this is where we get into the nitty-gritty. That fat, thick loot. How to get the loot, how to savor the loot, how to taste that shit, how to call that shit. Actually, I'm not going to go over how to call it, it's just luck, but seriously, loot is the reason we play the game. It's the reason we continue to grind. It's, as I said before, it's the grinding for the sake of grinding, but really it's grinding for the sake of white bags, no matter how shitty they are. Like, you know, Cutlass. Yeah, Cutlass is trash, by the way. But we grind for the sake of grinding, grind for the sake of white bags, for the sake of cyan bags sometimes, which, by the way, are so freaking rare. I've gotten 3 bulwarks and a fucking Stenosaurus and Skadeka, where are you at? But seriously, loot, once again, is the reason we play the game, and the way to get it is to be persistent, to keep going and doing those dungeons. Sometimes, I've seen people get lucky and get like a bracer or a gemstone, that thing, in their first freaking shatters. I know a guy who once got a bracer and a gemstone in the same shatters, right? It's all just RNG. You just have to keep going at it, and eventually you'll get it, because if you can do it like an infinite amount of times, then technically at some point you are guaranteed to get that loot, right? if you continue to do sprites, you will at some point get an EP or a plane. If you continue to do shatters, you will at some point get a gemstone or crown or bracer, whatever you want. If you keep at it, you will get it at some point. Persistence is key, and that doesn't only apply to getting loot, it applies to the entire game, it applies to almost everything I've talked about today. Like dying, you just need to be persistent till you can rebuild afterwards. And trying to finish a dungeon you've never done, just be persistent. That's really all you need to do. It's probably one of, like, you know, number 7 on that list I was talking about, but, you know, behind, like, you know, nexusing and being careful in nexusing and being careful in knowledge, you know, that thing. Those behind all that, it's like number 7, right? Number 6, actually? Yeah, number 6. Maybe number 7, because it kind of gets put down after, you know, remembering to nexus yet again. But another thing to go along with persistence is experience. I can't make a guide on everything. Talwar can't make a guide on everything. GHCD can't make a guide on everything. You have to go out and experience it yourself. It's just kind of the most important part is the game is experience. With experience, you will get better. And that's kind of the reason that super good guilds only recruit like white stars, and people that have like huge amounts of base fame and that sort of thing kind of annoy me, because like you're not letting anyone grow in your guild, you're not letting anyone get better. Because once again, I was a dark blue star by the time I joined Putang, and that was in like May. I'm now a yellow star with 588s, a 5.8, and like I think like a 4.8 level 1 archer. I think I leveled it up, level 20, whatever. The point is, I've gotten so much better at this game just because my guildies were willing to help me learn this game, to help me get better, right? And playing so much just helped me learn how to play the game. Like before I was super scared of rushing. I had never rushed in my life, and then I just did it. It's something you need to get a feel for, right? And that's about half this game, is just experience, knowing what to do in certain situations without actively thinking about it. Decisiveness as well. Rushing's like half subconscious, where you just think about what you have to do and then you do it. And the other half is obviously decision making. Half of clearing is decision making, half of it is subconscious. Okay, 90% of it is subconscious, 10% of it is decision making. But it's basically what I'm trying to say here is experience will help you in any situation, right? You can't go into your first shatters after watching like 2 hours of guides and think you're going to be the best shatters, right? Like the best shatter. You can't watch this guide over and over and over and expect to be the best realm player. Obviously, I'd love to be that good at making guides, but, you know, it's not gonna happen. Like, no guide's gonna do that. Not even pertaining to just a realm. Like, any game, anything in life, no one guide's gonna make you the best at it, a pro at it. You just have to get that muscle memory, that experience in. And this, in a way, kind of ties back to something we were talking about earlier, about fear, about risks, about decision making, about how you need to know when to take these risks, know when to do these things, but sometimes, in certain situations, on characters you don't care about and that sort of thing, you should probably just turn off that sense of logic. Because if you are too fearful to do something and you think too much about it, you're probably gonna die. So on a character that you don't really care about, try it sometime, and it'll definitely help. But I actually do have a major tip for anyone of any skill level to get better, and that is these 2 things, right? First, play without your pet. Do it in PE. Trust me, it'll help you get better. It'll help you learn how to dodge better, to make sure you don't get hit as much, because when you have such a good pet and that sort of thing, you kind of get accustomed to it and you start taking more shots than you really should be. So just try it. Trust me, it'll help you get better. Now, another thing you could do is, if you have a character you want to suicide, instead of just sitting in lava like a boring poo-poo head, what you can do is unbind your Nexus key, right? So you go to options and then you hit Like you go to your hotkeys and you go to your Nexus hotkey and you change it to something that way across the keyboard, something you'd never press, right? And after you do that, just play. Play until you die. Don't actively try to die, just do everything and never Nexus. It's a lot of fun. Trust me, I did it in my video, the No Nexus Experience, which no one fucking watched, but it's just so much fun. It helps you get better because you start taking more risks and you learn how to do things that you never would have done otherwise because you care about that character too much, which is not a bad thing, as I went over earlier. But it'll help you get some experience that you otherwise wouldn't if you were just, you know, if you weren't taking as many risks and that sort of thing. So that right there was my somewhat scripted, mostly ramble guide to Realm of the Mad God as a game. I hope you enjoyed, and peace. Just kidding. The first part of this video actually was scripted. I wrote it all down and I just decided I think it'd be better if I said everything on my mind. So the video got drawn out about, you know, 7 minutes longer than I thought it would be. So yeah, I just decided to say everything on my mind, which may or may not have turned out for the better, but I hope it has. I hope you guys have learned a few things about this game. Even people that are better than me have probably learned a few things about this game, about the way that I play it, the way that I've progressed so quickly, and just the things that I've done. So without further ado, here are a few bloopers that happened while recording. So enjoy these, and I'll see you later. Peace. Doing so will only help you expand your knowledge of the game, because that is yet. God damn it, I'm stuttering. Fuck, man. Doing so will only expand your knowledge of the game, which is probably like the number, maybe like 5 most important thing after, you know, remembering to Nexus and being careful, and remembering to Nexus and being careful and remembering to Nexus. Yeah, those 5 things. But it's about number 6 on that list. Because knowing how the game works, knowing how the enemies work. Whoa. So I think that just about concludes our time here to the essential guide to RotMG. I know it's kind of crazy. I thought this would be way longer. I thought it would take way longer to do, but I don't know. I kind of just sat down and grounded. I'm grinding coffee. Wow. Okay. Now, just remember to always Nexus. It doesn't make you a pussy. Actually, it does, you pussy-ass bitch. Fuck you. Oh, man. By the way, one more thing I have to talk about is aiming. I forgot to. Aim where they are, not where... Or fuck. What I meant to say was aim where they're going to be, not where they are. That's just kind of how aiming works in every game. I forgot to put that in when I was talking about dodging and aiming, but I don't know, I had some time at the end. So, once again, aim where they're moving, not where they are. Sometimes in moving you misses a few shots, but it doesn't really matter. Accuracy's not really that important. Just a few hits, honestly, will get you enough for Soulbound. But thanks for coming around. Thanks for staying. Peace.